From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big evening of Evenings LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check update of 2022, direct from Santa Monica, California, tonight. As three major checks have now landed, stimulus checks, huge amounts, $6,500, $15,000 to $80,000 stimulus check, and an MSC that would pay you at least $24,000. We'll go over the latest details of how to get those checks tonight. As major data came in today, the Consumer Price Index number released earlier today. Did it beat expectations or did it miss? We'll go over whether it's causing recession or whether inflation's going higher. We have the latest details tonight across the board. Then we'll be looking at six stimulus, the latest details for the White House, Germany, and France, as a new major bank says that Germany needs to do a six stimulus package or they're going to recession. Who said that to you first? I did on this recording. We'll go over the latest details tonight across the land. We'll be going back to Build Back Better Act that has a new push today as economic data continues to miss, not continues to beat in the U.S. economy. The U.S. economy is stalling up as two industries are now in recession, and more will be in there by next year. And this is good news for your SS300 as well, as J-Powell's trying to reduce those inflation rates, but maybe reducing them, maybe trying to increase those inflation rates to reduce inflation, but maybe doing it too quickly. Then, seven stimulus major bailout details, as student loans get big relief overnight. I have the latest details on that student loan seven stimulus breaking news tonight. But first, those big checks, 1, 2, and 3 stimulus checks landing. If you haven't become a member, because over the next 1 hour broadcast of America's most watched show in prime time, we're going to go over all the details that impact your financial freedom, that shows you where this economy is going, where the economy is heading, and where it is right now. We'll grab lots of checks tonight, and we as a community will come together to ensure that we have that financial independence, whether supply chain inflation grows throughout the land in the next 30 days. And where is this economy going to be in the next 30 days? I'll answer that question as well. It's America's most watched show for financial news in prime time. You found it, and we're ready to rock and roll. Over the next 1 hour broadcast, we have a lot to go over, starting with that CPI number and those big checks. The details start right now on Evenings. Good evening, everybody. It's a big night for April 12th, 2022, as the Consumer Price Index number released earlier today. It gives you an indication of where inflation is in the U.S. economy and where it's heading next. We'll go over that big CPI number released today in advance of the PPI number being released on April 13th. Plus, we'll be going over how it impacts your Build Back Better Act and your SS300 to raise your benefits up. Is supply chain disruption in train tracks and the U.S. ports the major issue that J-Powell cannot fix? And is that likely to send the GDP, the gross national product of the U.S. economy, into a tailspin? On the latest details tonight. Plus, we'll be going over those big checks, three checks. Stay with me, because over this 1 hour broadcast, I'm going to show you how to clean up, as many viewers have gotten over $150,000. If you haven't become a member, this is LA, the channel you want to become a member with. You can get an incredible newsletter tonight, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via the YouTube alert system. As we start a big 1 hour broadcast starting right now, we can go over the Build Back Better Act to start, then SS300, and then the breaking news that came in today that all impacts both bodies of legislation. Let's look at that Build Back Better Act. That is the fourth stimulus recon, currently passed in the House, and now sitting in the Senate, likely to go to a vote in the Senate in the next few weeks. 3 clusters of checks, 3 add-ons of checks that pay you an enormous sum of money. In the final minutes of the video, I'll have a new analysis of Build Back Better in view of the economic data released today. But let's first start with those checks. How much checks are there in this Build Back Better Act? A lot of checks. $15,000 to $80,000 of checks in there. And where are they? There are 3 clusters and 3 add-ons. Let's look at them starting right now. In that first cluster, we have hazard pay, 1 more year of the Earned Income Tax Credit, the EIC. If you're a essential worker, you can get it now under third stimulus as you prepare your 2021 tax return. Then the CDC, 1 more year of that, the $3,600 for the young children. Then, brand new under 4 stimulus, $4,000 of elder care. Brand new, $4,000 of care for young children. Brand new, a $550 check for my college students on the Pell Grant. Congratulations. $12,500 for the purchase of a new electric vehicle. Brand new. Then money for nutrition, and then money to repair your home. If you live in a low-income community, it is huge. That is the first of 3 clusters of checks in the Build Back Better Act. The first add-on of checks comes from the shores of Southern California here via Maxine Waters, the legislator here in Southern California. She got it in there. It's a biggie, folks. Are you ready for it? A little bit less than $25,000 for the purchase of your first home. Oh boy, you heard me right. This is money given to the seller in your name at the time of escrow for the purchase of your first home. Got it in there. Law right away as soon as this gets to the vote, passed in the House, sitting in the Senate. Let's go to that second cluster of checks, home repairs, and paid leave. Huge. Paid leave is a lot of money. What is it? If you have to stay home from work due to sickness or illness, it is a lot of money. $1,400 a week if you make $70,000 or more per year. Split in half if you make $35,000 or more per year, and split in half if you make $15,000. Then, how many weeks per year? 46 weeks per year, so that's about $46,000 a year. W-2, 1099, you get it. If you don't work, but your son or daughter does work and has to take you to the doctor's office, they'll get the check if they're part of the household. It's huge, and that is paid leave. Let's go back into that second check in the second clusters of checks in the Build Back Better Act, which is money, additional sums of money for the home. That second check is for home repairs or to weatherize your home. Yes. But hold up, there's a big surprise right there. Put your pens up. Exam is over. No, it's not over yet. Home repairs taken out and made law. Wow. There you go. That home repairs, which was to weatherize your home, which was in the second clause of the Build Back Better Act, taken out by Joe Biden, your president, and made law by executive action. Remember, you can have something become a law by executive action or by vote of Congress. He took it out of the congressional bill and made it law, and guess which check it is? You guessed right. It is check A of those A, B, and C checks. Remember, there are 3 checks that are now law, and here, let's look at them again. Check A became law on March 31st. A $6,500 check. There it is. The home weatherizing grant check. But guess what? There's another check that Joe Biden took out of the Build Back Better Act and made law as well. 2 checks are now law, going out, landed in people's hands. Have you gotten it? Stay with me. It's coming up in just a second. We got a lot of money tonight, folks, in this recording. It became law March 4th when Joe Biden took it out of Build Back Better Act. It is check B, $15,000 to $80,000 of checks. All right, let's go back into Build Back Better. We were in the second cluster. Let's look at that second add-on of checks, a little bit less than $250 billion for free home health care for seniors and people on disabilities. Got it in there via Bob Casey, a campaign promise from Joe Biden. Huge. Let's go to that third cluster of checks in the Build Back Better Act for some recon. Big money. Free internet for all checks, farmers checks, independent contractors checks, seniors checks, getting lots of checks, seniors. They're getting dental checks, vision checks, hearing checks, lowering the eligibility age of Medicare from 65 to 55 checks. The Medicaid gap fix, providing a workaround plan, so provide insurance to uninsured people in 12 Republican holdout states, which is par for the course when we're talking about adding checks to the Build Back Better Act. The other checks that they represent, they would add in there are MSC, IRS MSC. These are for stimulus checks that go out from IRS. Let's learn a little bit about them starting right now. The legislators represent they would add these checks to the Build Back Better Act that already has $15,000 to $80,000 of checks. These would be additional checks. And who would get them? You get them the same way you got a third stimulus check. Let's go over that eligibility once again. Single individual, $75,000 less, you could get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, double it, you get it. Family of 4, you get as well, quadruple it. And if you're on benefits, SSI, SSA, SSDI, VA or RB, you would get it as well. Also, adult dependents. It goes off the most recent tax return. So if that had direct deposit on it, that's how you get paid. Otherwise, in the mail. It's not income. It's not taxable. It goes out on a nationwide basis, not a state-by-state basis. And then how much? The legislators represent they would pay the following payout of these IRS MSC checks. Pay attention here. Let's go over the numbers. $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for up to 6 months. That, my friends, totals $7,000 on the high end. But the great news tonight is you don't have to wait for Build Back Better Act to become a law, because guess what? There is an MSC check law right now, and it's this one. And yeah, that's a lot more money. That's 300% more money, and in some cases, thousands of percent more money. A third stimulus MSC check is now landing for viewers of this channel. They're getting on average $2,000 a month over 12 months. This is not Build Back Better Act. This is third stimulus. How do you get check C? It's coming up later in this recording. If you haven't become a member. It's coming up later, and get that newsletter. It comes out Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, across the land and across the sea, tonight we have a lot of economic data that was released as predicted on this channel all last week. This would be the broadcast for April 12th, 2022. And the April 13th broadcast tomorrow is the one you also want to watch. Because why? Tonight, the CPI number was released. It impacts that inflation and those train tracks and the shippers. And tomorrow, it's the producer price index impacted as well. What do those numbers say? And what does it mean for your Build Back Better Act and your SS300? First, let's go over what SS300 is before we go over the economic data today. The concept of SS300 is very simple. Joe Biden put it in his presidential platform and then put it at joebiden.com. The concept is the following. Swap COLA for inflation as your benchmark every December. Your benefits, if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, Railroad benefits, or Veterans benefits, are reassessed based upon a benchmark every December. If the benchmark is positive, let's say 1%, then your benefits go up 1%. The current benchmark is called a COLA. It doesn't work because it doesn't move. They want to replace, no, not they, Joe Biden wants to replace COLA for inflation. And inflation is tracking at the highest price point of a generation. I've been featuring this on this channel for now over a year. A year ago today, I said that inflation would come in at 8% in December. Jay Powell misguided. He said it was going to be 2% and just 1 month. I said, no, it's going to be 8% for several months. It was in December. It was in January. And it was in February. So where is it tonight? We have the data tonight with the CPI number released minutes ago. I'll have that for you in a second. But let's go over the calculation of swapping out COLA for inflation. If Joe Biden swapped that COLA for inflation today, you'd lock in 8% right today with that inflation, and that would be an additional $200 more per month. Not just this month, not just this year, but a lifetime. Because once your benefits go up, they never go down. What about later this year when they reassess your benefits again in December? In the month of February, Jay Powell, the head of reserves, said that the inflation rate would track at 4% in December. I agree. That would be another $100. Then that's SS300. So what have we been doing over the last 60 days on this channel? We have been looking at the Federal Reserve's data that it uses. We'll be looking at the Federal Reserve's comments, which is called Fed Speak. And we've been looking at the trajectory of where inflation is coming so we get guidance as to whether Joe needs to really make that swap from COLA to inflation right tonight or can wait, or whether supply chain and other issues is bringing up inflation even more. Tonight, the major breaking news for April 12, 2022. The Consumer Price Index number, which is a major guidance for inflation, was released this morning. And what did it say? It basically had a series of numbers. Let's go over each of them right now. And the takeaway is that inflation may likely, at the time of tonight's recording, be at its all-time peak and is going down. So let's go to the analysis right into tonight. The analysis started with that CPI number released before sunrise on the West Coast today. In the month of March 2022, the CPI rose by 8.5% compared to the year to date last year. This is the highest annual growth of the CPI number since the first year of the Reagan administration, 1981. So that was a major growth. That shows inflation is really out of control, really hot. But we already knew it's hot for year to date when comparing to March 2021. How is it compared to February or January 2022? How is inflation tracking compared to 2 months ago. This is where your SSI, SSDI benefits are at issue. Remember, we want Joe to make that swap of coal into inflation when inflation is at its highest point. Is it at the highest point this month, last month, or next month? Let's look at the data right tonight. Wall Street was trying to analyze the so-called core CPI, which looks at how much inflation is growing month to month. And that number removes food and energy, because food and energy have big inflationary numbers. The number for the month of March, they're expecting it to increase 0.5, less than 1% compared to February. Did it? No, it missed. It came in weaker at 0.3%. So it did grow a little bit compared to the month of February. But let's understand it. The month of March was almost the same as the month of February, meaning we may be at the peak, the highest price point for inflation in tonight's recording. I have been saying it all the last 30 days that we may be at the highest price point or a little bit higher. I think we're almost over, and then we're going to come back down. This is before Jay Powell does anything. Now, the reason why the number was so high year to date was, of course, because of food and energy. Food and energy prices are out of control. They increased 6.5% year to date. You already know that. That's sort of simple. You already know that food and energy has gone out of control. But they only increased 0.3%. When you remove them from part of the equation, the CPI only increased 0.3% compared to the month before. This is why the big news in the month of March report was that core price pressures finally appear to be moderating, meaning they're settling down, says Andrew Hunter in a new report tonight from Capital Economics. The analysis tonight is that this may be the highest level on inflation. That is why Joe Biden needs to make that swap from coal to inflation right tonight. Swap that coal to inflation right tonight, because guess what? If this is the highest price point for inflation, then we're only going down. Now, the Atlanta Federal Reserve wage tracker for the month of March said that the gains in wages were only about 6%. That's not a lot. But that other items continue to surge dramatically month to month. And those, of course, were issues like energy and also food. Food rose 1% for the month to date, 8.8% compared to year. And then you understand that energy is up a lot of the last few weeks. Energy rose 11% in just 1 month. That's a big leap. 32% for the year to date. Meantime, auto, cars, and sales down for the month. Another 4% down. I told you that auto's in recession. That's coming up later in this recording. And then the totality of today's reports shows you that the numbers are generally signaling that inflation is at its highest point and is coming down. So what is Jay Powell doing? Jay Powell has given us confusing guidance, he's your head of the Federal Reserve, on where he's likely to come in to reduce inflation. He's likely to come in with a hard landing. A lot of analysts now believe. That means 2 half basis point increases in the month of April and in the month of May, and then many more meetings thereafter, lots more increases. Let's take the news tonight. The news tonight is a lot of analysts believe that the Federal Reserve will raise interest rates not just for 5 more meetings, not just for 6 more meetings, but potentially to the end of 2023. This was not something anyone anticipated. The net result is that if those interest rates continue to grow across the board, then you want that swap for coal and inflation hitting right away. How low can Jay Powell bring that inflation by the end of the year? I don't think he's going to get to 4%. I don't think he's going to get to 4%. To 1.9%. I think he can get to 4. He may not even get to 4. The issue at hand is that there's a supply chain disruption. And later into this recording, you're going to see why Jay Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, may not have the tools to bring down inflation like he says. I first said this over a month ago. Every day another day passes, and no less than a half dozen analysts every day say the same thing. Why? It's called supply chain. The Federal Reserve thinks that they can battle inflation by raising interest rates. That's their part of the analysis, as that will soften the GDP. My part of the analysis is different, and so is some of Wall Street. They believe that supply chain disruption is what's causing inflation, and that Jay Powell has nothing to solve supply chain disruption, because guess what? Supply chain disruption is being caused by things like a subvariant surprise of Omicron now in China, as China is increasing its lockdowns across the board. Overnight, if you saw it on last night's live stream of LA Live, I jumped to the live chat and told you that the State Department last night announced that all non-essential workers in Shanghai are to leave immediately because of the spread of the subvariant of Omicron. This will cause more inflation. This will cause more supply chain disruption. This will cause less productivity for China and the United States potentially. And this is part of what Jay Powell has to deal with right now. The takeaway for your money right tonight is that it's complicated. It's very complicated. And that with so many twists and turns, this is not 2020. In 2020, we had just one crisis we were dealing with, COVID. Tonight, we have Russia. We have a subvariant of Omicron. We have supply chain disruption. And we have runaway inflation and we have recessionary concerns. That's 6 problems we're dealing with at the same time. It's very confusing. It's good, though, for Build Back Better Act. Why? Because Build Back Better Act is based upon the concept that the economy is not altogether there yet, and you need economic support. And guess what? That's where the economy is tonight. Let's look at the economy tonight and the data that Build Back Better Act is based upon. So, the number of non-payroll jobs created in the last month was a miss. They came in 60,000 less than Wall Street anticipated. Then, the GDP number released this month was a miss, expecting 7.1% gross national product growth. It came at 6.9%. And guess what? Many analysts believe it's going to drop to less than 1% by the end of the year. Housing starts down, 4th consecutive month in a row. Mortgages high, 5%, surging to its highest level since the 1960s. Among all those numbers, they're generally all misses. They're bad, they're weak, they're poor. The only number in that group is good, is spending is still relatively strong. A new report out today for April 12, 2022, analyzed the travel industry and airlines and said people are spending more money on flights. They don't care if the flights are higher, they're spending more money. And the unemployment numbers are great as well. Those are really strong numbers. Lowest unemployment since the 1960s. Nearly 166,000 new unemployment claims per week. That's very, very low. And also the number of reoccurring unemployment claims, less than 2 million. It was 18 million last year. The takeaway is that there's enough good data in there that is very bad. Did I say that wrong? There's enough bad data, enough economic missing data where the economy is signaling it's not particularly that robust, that signals that Build Back Better Act needs to get done. For all the glimmering of good data, like unemployment that's very strong, I think there's a lot more bad data in there that supports getting Build Back Better Act done. In the case of SS300, very problematic, because I think Jake Powell's going to get it wrong. I think Jay Powell's going to get it wrong. I'm not alone on this equation. I think Jay Powell's going to come in very aggressively. I think he's going to do a hard landing. I think he's going to do half basis point increases over consecutive meetings. And I don't think that whether we have supply chain disruption in China, supply chain disruption in Russia, I don't think Jay Powell's going to pivot. I think he's going to come in very aggressively. And guess what? That's also what they're saying in the European Central Bank as well. Everyone wants to get down inflation strongly, but a new report coming out today from Deutsche Bank co-signs no less than 2 things I said on this channel. Number 1, Deutsche Bank is saying that the U.S. economy is going to 2 years of recession starting 2023. I've been saying that for over a month. Number 2, Deutsche Bank also says that if Germany's economy does not do another stimulus package, a 6th stimulus package, to give stimulus to its citizens, they're going to recession because they cannot afford the current price point on consumer goods. There you go. That's 6th stimulus. And it's coming up with that breaking news in the second half of this video. We'll be looking at what's going on with that 6th stimulus with Macron, the president of France. Not yet reelected because he did not win on Saturday. Will he win the runoff later this month? And what does it mean for your 6th stimulus package? A huge amount of money. We'll be looking at that 7th stimulus. Huge. As the White House did a major deal April 11th in the middle of the night for student borrowers who are on those federal student loan debts. You'll be celebrating this breaking news coming up after the commercial break. But the big celebration is those 3 checks. 1, 2, and 3. 3 major checks have now become a law. They've been sent out by Joe Biden. They've landed in people's hands. And I'm going to go over those big 3 checks in the second half of this video. They are an MSE check of about $24,000. They are a $15,000 to $80,000 stimulus check, and they are a $6,500 stimulus check that in some states is upwards of $12,000. How do you get those big checks? Stay with me. They're coming up after the commercial break. But first, become a member. The link's at the top of the chat and in the pinned comment. The newsletter comes out Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time via the YouTube alerts. As we go into the big second half, a lot of money and a lot of money for you. Stay with me. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. As America's most watched show in prime time for financial news continues, See you back, but first, here's a little bit about the members community page. If you have any questions, reach out to the members on the volunteers on the members community page, and they'll answer your questions. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds. As America's most watched show in prime time for financial news continues. It's evenings. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.lalate.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE Daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And the excitement continues on the big second half of Evenings LA tonight, April 12th, 2022. A series of major checks have now landed, and you need them in view of the supply chain disruption, the issues about Vladimir Putin, and the surging concerns about a falling gross national product. We'll go over those big three checks in the second half of this video. A $15,000 to $80,000 check, a $6,500 check, and an MSC. It's check A, B, and C. Then we'll be turning to the changing, developing details about that sixth stimulus. Breaking details tonight as a major German bank says that Germany needs to do this sixth stimulus package. If not, they're going to recession. Then we'll be looking at student loan debt forgiveness. A big surprise on that front. As the president forgave, he took you out of default. A major developing detail on that front tonight. Then we'll be looking back over what's happening on with the remainder of that sixth stimulus. The wheat grain, the corn, the soybean, and what about the gasoline prices? Are they going down or are they not going down? Then we'll be turning back to Build Back Better Act. And in the final minutes of this video, I have a big surprise for you as well. My commentary in view of tonight's economic data. And with that, let's go into those three big checks which are now law. Let's understand that these three checks are law. They were made law by the President of the United States, did not need a vote of Congress. They were done by executive action, and they pay an enormous sum of money. If you're a viewer of this channel, you're likely qualify for A, B, and or C all at the same time. Let's look at these incredible checks right now. Huge checks across the board. A was a check that became a law on March 31st, 2022. Immediately was featured in the membership newsletter that night. You need to be a member at every single day and every single moment that you can, because when a new check is announced, I immediately feature in the membership newsletter. I featured that $6,500 check as soon as it was announced March 31st. A $15,000 to $80,000 check became a law on March 4th, nationwide. It's huge, and immediately went to the membership newsletter on March 4th. My recording that night was get the check right tonight because it will run out of money. And since then, one state has run out of money. That is why you don't want to wait around, become a member, or not become a member and then become a member after the fact. You want to be a member consecutively and stay a member, because when checks land, you deserve to get them first. Then check C, a $2,400 check, $24,000 check. MSCs, $2,000 a month over 12 months. Let's go over the details of each of those checks right now. When we look at the first check, it is a huge $6,500 check that was in for stimulus. It was in that second cluster. You saw it with me earlier in this recording. It was taken out by Joe Biden. Made law. It's called the Homeowners Weatherizing Grant Check. In many states, it's upwards of $12,000. So What is the income qualification? Easy breezy. Same as the third stimulus check. Single individual, 75,000 less, you can get it. Married couple, 150,000 less, you can get it. If you're on benefits like Social Security or veterans benefits, you can get it as well. The last qualification is you own a home. Don't worry about the qualification of the word home or the word weatherizing. Just go right in and apply. So how do you apply? First, you want to become a member. Then look for that newsletter that's delivered via the YouTube alerts Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 9 o'clock Central. Open the newsletter that has the title newsletter, has the image newsletter, and then go right in there under the top few lines of oil, wheat, and grain prices tonight is Check A. It'll tell you more about the check, and then I'll give you the link, the web link, because it's an online application. You don't have to own a computer. You can do it with your cell phone. You click the link, it'll send you into the national website. Then you choose your state, like Alabama. Choose the state, and then choose the weatherizing grant. It'll say something like Alabama weatherizing grant, and then apply. That's how you pounce. It's important to understand the universe of how checks work. And I haven't said this on the recording for almost, I guess, a month now. And I want to say it right tonight across the board. I've done this now for 2 years. This channel approaches 2-year anniversary on April 25th, 2022. And what I've learned with viewers of this channel is that when checks become live, you really have to pounce. That's why I call the expression Purple Hawks, pounce. Why? Because the checks literally run out, sometimes overnight. In the case of the EIDL grant, it became a law the second round on a Monday. People applied on Monday, got funded by Monday night. People applied on Tuesday, got funded on Thursday. People applied on Wednesday, they're out of money. Notice how that happened? The first group got funded in just hours. The second group got funded in days. And the third group got nothing. That is why you want to become a member, stay a member, because I'm always adding checks when they become law. You don't want to miss a check because you weren't a member and you didn't cut that newsletter across the board. Moreover, you don't want thousands of people get in front of you, because every day that passes, thousands of people get in front of you for these programs, because this channel tracks a lot of people. A new report today. So one of the news channels launched their streaming service. I'm not going to say who it is, but it's the one, well, I'm not going to say which one it is. Launched a streaming news service today. I got to tell you, this channel does more viewers than that major cable operator that went into streaming news services today. All right, let's go back into that first check. So that first check is huge. It is a check of $6,500, and you can get it right today. It has been law for about a month. I don't want you to wait. Again, that is the Homeowners Weatherizing Grant check. Now, the check B looks like check A. I want you to get check B as well. It became law March 4th. So see here, we're now a month and a few weeks out from when it went law. You don't want to wait. Get that membership right now. Get the newsletter right now and apply. Let's go over that check B right now. Is it different? It is quite different, but it's also quite similar. First, pays a lot more money, $15,000 to $80,000. Many viewers tracking about $66,000 to $80,000 on the high end. Number two, is a four stimulus check, taking out a Build Back Better Act, just like Check A. Number three, it has the same income qualification as Check A. Single individual, $75,000 or less. Married couple, $150,000 or less. And then if you're on benefits like Social Security or veterans benefits, you can get as well. Finally, you have to own your own home. Now, with this one, you're going to have this in the membership newsletter under Check A. Look for the homeowner's grant. Look for that number, 15 to 80,000. Pretty easy to recognize that. And then there's going to be a link, a new link, a different website. You're going to click it and go into it. It'll have a map of the country. Then you choose your state, like Tennessee, and then you apply. When you apply, it'll tell you if you got approved. You get funded in 1 week. There you go. Very easy. That is Check A and B. Now, let's go back to that overview graphic. There we are. If you're a homeowner, you can get Check A, B, and C. You heard me right, and C. If you're a renter, you can get Check C. So you're ready for Check C? I'm ready for Check C right now. Check C is a monthly stimulus check. It became a law under third stimulus in 2022, and the payouts are astronomical. In recent days and weeks, viewers have gotten $2,000 a month over 12 months, including viewers who are on SSI and SSDI, including viewers who have gotten these sums of money before. Now, let's look at the success stories, because guess what? A lot of viewers have averaged a lot more money, and many of the viewers got that 24,000 on top of the 45,000 they've gotten before. I've been featuring this since this became a law in early 2021. This is third stimulus. So let's look at the money that viewers have gotten for these MSC checks, because this is how you pounce. If there's two different pots of money and one is a lot more money, you get the one that has a lot more money. You don't wait around. Let's look at the numbers that viewers have gotten. Wow. Elizabeth, 27,000. Nisi, under the evening's LA overlay graphic, says 20,000. Guess what? Nisi has gotten about another 20,000 since then. She's at over 40,000. Here's the number for utilities. Mark's brother-in-law got $15,000 for utilities. Let's look at the combo where people got 3 items. Mark was at 32,000. I said, Mark, where's your other item? He went and got his extra item, and guess what? That brought him Mark to 50,000. Since this graphic, Mark went to 100,000. Then he got $66,000 from check B. Yeah, you heard me right. That's almost $166,000 that Mark has gotten. His brother-in-law is getting $250,000 over the next 10 years because he watched this channel. Here's Lorraine, 105. She's at $120,000 tonight. And viewers continue to get these big sums of money. So how do you get this check C? Let's go back to that check C. How do you get this check C? This is different than check A and B, which involves going to a website. This one, all you need is a telephone. You're going to your telephone to make the call. And then making the call will get you those big checks. Let's go over where you make the call to get those checks and how you get them across the board. There's going to be 6 places you're going to reach out to, and it's very easy. You're going to reach out to your city hall, your city housing authority, your county hall, and your county housing authority, plus your state hall and your state housing authority. You're not going to say MSC. You're not going to say stimulus check. You're going to say rent assistance because of COVID. Mortgage utility assistance because of COVID. 30 things you must do. You must get multiple applications on file. You must reach out to all different places, and you must get as many months as possible. Now, if you're a member of this channel, guess what? The membership newsletter features the nonprofits that give you other places to reach out to. Those nonprofits will fund you as well, oftenly, and those will bring you more sums of money. The average viewer of this channel getting $45,000 of these MSC checks since early 2021, and some viewers getting a lot more. Get these big checks today. Do not wait. You deserve them. Get these big checks across the board. All these incredible checks you deserve across the land. And with that, let's go back into that check C so we see where we are across the land. That check C is a huge payout. And what's important to remember when we're looking at that check C is that this is astronomically more money than the Build Back Better Act's MSC checks. Those are $2,000 a month. $2,000 the first month, $1,000 thereafter for up to 6 months. That's only $7,000. This, my friends, is tracking 300% higher in money, at least $24,000, $2,000 over 12 months. Many viewers getting $45,000. That's why Check C works. And that's why, of course, you want to become a member. You want to become a member right tonight. And how do you do it? Go to the top of the chat, go under the video's description. It says join. Become a Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. Get that newsletter delivered Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 9 o'clock Central, delivered via the YouTube alert system. Not by email, not by waivable check, not by waivable lobster. Delivered via the YouTube alert system, and there you go. You're going to cash those checks and kill it. I have complete confidence in you tonight. Now, we have major developing details on that 6 stimulus package. Great news tonight, as one of the major banks out of Germany says Germany must do that major 6 stimulus package, or they're going to recession. What's 6 stimulus? 6 stimulus, first covered on this channel nearly 2 months ago, was basically commandeered or invented by the White House. The concept is the following. Anthony Blinken, your Secretary of State, had reached out to Germany and France after the first week of the invasion of Ukraine by Vladimir Putin, said get off of that Russian products, those Russian oils and other products. Germany said no. Then Blinken pushed back and said you must morally get off the products. Then Germany said yes. As the trifecta of the progressiveness of Germany, its chancellor, France, its President Macron, and the United States, its President Joe Biden, they said, okay, we will battle recession, getting off of those Russian products by deficit spending, increasing spending domestically because our citizens cannot afford these items. The breaking news tonight is that Deutsche Bank has now co-signed two different comments I've made, or two different topics I've covered on this channel in less than 3 weeks. First, they say that the U.S. economy will be going into recession for 2 years starting 2023. Told you so. Number two, they're saying that Germany must do a stimulus package, what other version of the language you would say, stimulus or stimulus package, to their citizens, or they're going into recession. And there you go. So let me tell you where we are on that sixth stimulus, because it is very confusing. We got a lot of moving parts. We got people, we got voting, we got dates, and then we got the actual money. Let's go over what's happening tonight. Number one, we were watching early April because that is when we were waiting to see if Macron, part of that trifecta, is reelected. Again, Macron is the French president, and he is part of that progressive alliance between France, the United States, and Germany. Well, what happened on Sunday, last Sunday? Macron did not win his reelection bid. He got sent into a runoff. So that runoff with a right-wing candidate will be later in April. So we do not know if France will still have Macron. Now, let's assume France does not reelect Macron. Can we still have a sixth stimulus package? We don't know if it's internationally going to happen. Deutsche Bank thinks it has to. I think it has to. Germany just a week ago said it's knocking off the Russian products, changing course again. But even if Germany and France doesn't do it, the United States has to do it, because guess what? The price of oil, not sustainable. Through the month of May, or we go into recession for 2 years. The price of wheat and corn, not sustainable, or we go into recession for 2 years. But tonight, are the prices going down, or are they not going down? And if they're going down, is it because of something the White House or the Western Allies has done, or is it because of a new part of the equation that no one saw coming? The answer is going to surprise you. It's a new crisis that no one saw coming. We had the first stimulus package and second stimulus to battle COVID. And we had those lockdowns. Then we came out of the lockdowns. Then we needed a third stimulus package. Then we had Build Back Better Act, fourth stimulus package. Sixth stimulus was to battle Vladimir Putin's caused recession. Now, let's be very clear that before Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, we had supply chain disruption. What is supply chain? Supply chain means that you can't get the product from where it's made to you. So we had a problem after we were out of lockdown, where the truckers had not been shipping the products, and there was a big demand. People wanted that soap or that paper towel, and you couldn't get it shipped quick enough. Didn't have truck drivers, didn't have the ability to get it. Supply chain disruption. Then Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine. More supply chain disruption. Supply chain disruption causes inflation. And Jay Powell's job is to reduce inflation by raising interest rates, but if he does it too aggressively, he sends you a recession. What's new tonight? What's new tonight was tipped off to the viewership of this channel in the new hit show, LA Live, that airs every night, overnight on this channel. The U.S. State Department announcing non-essential State Department workers in Shanghai to evacuate immediately. Why? The subvariant of Omicron in China is now very serious. There's major concerns across the board. Let's analyze it not from a health standpoint, but from an economic standpoint. The economic standpoint is that more supply chain disruption is about to happen. They can't get their products to us. They can't get our products made there to us either, because the manufacturing is going to be impacted. The shipping is going to be impacted as well. Supply chain disruption, there you go. Pre-Putin, Putin, and now China. 3 types of supply chain disruption and no solution for any of the 3. Wow, that's not a situation we anticipated. Jay Powell has no tools to bring this down. So this is why this sixth stimulus is needed. Now, we have other problems. We also have costs going higher. Can you bring those costs down? You can if you do certain things. Has the White House done certain things? Let's analyze it tonight. We're going to look at oil, we're going to look at the commodities, and then we're going to look at the banking industry. First, the oil front. This is where it gets interesting, folks. The oil front has had not one, but 2 major pivots in the last 7 days, and the price of gasoline has gone down. Gasoline is now hovering around $100, $94 a barrel. I told you $120 is not sustainable, but $100 is not sustainable. Why? Because the price of the gasoline at the U.S. pumps, according to the AAA national average today, is still hovering above $4 a gallon. You can't sustain that. That's not sustainable in the month of May. You go to recession. But the international price of gasoline is going down. Good news on that front. Maybe the domestic price at the pump is going to go down next. Or not. Let me tell you what's going on. The White House released 1 million barrels a day for 6 months starting 2 weeks ago from the strategic reserves of the United States government. I say it's not going to work. It's not enough gasoline. Then we had another element at issue that came in just a few days ago. Over the weekend, we had another release of extra oil, and it was great news as well. That announcement came for the International Energy Agency that involves the United States. Those member countries agreed to release 120 million barrels of gasoline, of which 60 million barrels are for the United States. How much is 120 million barrels of gasoline? That's over 6 months. That's not per day. 120 million barrels plus the 180 million barrels for the United States. That comes to about 1.5 million barrels a day. Does it work? No. Russia accounts for 3 million barrels a day. So we're only halfway there. So then why is gasoline going down? Did something work? Nothing worked. The reason why gasoline is going down tonight, folks, is because analysts believe, and I think they're right, that supply for the gasoline will remain at these levels, but the demand is going to drop. Why is the demand going to drop? Because of China. Because China is heading on lockdown, they're not going to be driving, their use of gasoline is going to drop dramatically, and then suddenly we won't have as much demand for gasoline, and the demand versus the price will even out. Wow. So no particular solution, but let's make clear, you and I don't know how long the subvariant Omicron will cause a disruption of COVID standards in China. And if it doesn't cause a disruption more than a week, then we're back to the high price of gasoline. So this is not a solution. It's just the current situation tonight. Next, the price of wheat and grain is really troubling tonight. A series of analyst reports again subscribe to what I say, which is that the price of your bread is unsustainable. The loaf of bread is too expensive at the supermarkets, and it's likely to go up another 40%. Let's make something very clear. The CPI number released at the top of the broadcast is a number for the month of March, but a lot of the impact on the Russian invasion of Ukraine does not filter into the society, does not filter into the economy for at least 30 days. When we look at Ukraine, when we look at Russia, what's going on? Ukraine is a major exporter of wheat, and that is why wheat and grain are at the 10-year high, a generational high. And that wheat and grain is not something anyone's analyzing except you and I. White House is not talking about it. The Western allies are not talking about it. And that wheat and grain will be lost for this season because they cannot harvest their crops. The farmers are defending their country, and guess where those crops are? You heard me right, the eastern section of Ukraine, along the Black Sea, near Odessa. They're not harvesting this crop this season, so it's lost. They're not preparing the crop for next season, it's lost. And that means shortage of crop after crop, season after season. What is the Western allies doing on this front? Nothing. So the problem with that situation across the board, folks, is that Wall Street believes that there could be another 40% price escalation on that element as well. When we look at that CPI number that was released this morning, and that was featured early in this broadcast, what did it tell us about these prices and what you should think about this CPI number? Well, we did see that price of food and how it rose month after month today. Here's what the number on the food showed us based upon a March number. Food rose 1% in inflation compared to the month of February, 8.8% year to date, as price for goods like beef, citrus foods, and vegetables posted gains of more than 2%. Now, that's compared to energy that rose 11%. 11% for energy. Energy felt the immediate impact from Vladimir Putin. But in the case of the wheat and grain, it may have a 30-day delay. So remember, these CPI numbers that I just went over for food are March numbers that are not particularly impacted the minute Vladimir Putin walks into Ukraine. The price of bread, wheat, and corn that could be impacted by Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine may not be seen until the April CPI number. That is why I'm deeply worried about this situation. And I'm deeply worried about the White House's inability to solve the situation for oil, solve the situation for wheat, or any of the Western allies as well. And that is why Deutsche Bank is exactly on point when they say that Germany needs to get a package out to its citizens because they will not be able to afford any of this across the land. Now, among all this confusing data, one thing that was very clear was the great news announced April 11th in the middle of the night from the White House about 7 stimulus. Student loan debt forgiveness, you're getting great news tonight, as individuals who had student loan debts, that's federal student loan debts, in default, you will be made in good standing. The White House is announcing that it is freezing student loan debts till September. They're currently frozen through May 2nd, and the federal government will extend it to September, number one. And then number two, if any of you are in federal default on your current federal student loan debt, the U.S. government will switch you from default to good standing. That is great news, and you won't have to pay in the money until at least September. Tonight, my analysis of where we are on this front with all these stimulus packages overlapping. First, what's important to understand is that when checks are available, you want to be a member. You don't want to wait to become a member after the fact. And I know that a lot of you became members after you saw Check B landing. If I haven't done in recent days a recap, what's important to understand is that Check A landed. When Check B landed on March 4th, there was a certain number of members. But by A's checks landing on March 31st, membership flew out. Membership zoomed dramatically because people now saw there was not one, there's now 2 checks. And then when they saw that C was at issue, membership surged even more dramatically. What's important to understand is that you don't want to wait to become a member when a new check lands, because there will be a check D. We have A, B, and C. Because when the check lands, you want to pounce and get that check at that moment. You don't want to wait, because guess what? Every day that passes you up, that check may run out of money, and you don't want it to run out of money. Tonight, my analysis of where Build Back Better is, because I've seen some great comments of people that asked me to answer this as well. It's important to understand where this U.S. economy is tonight and how it's a very different economy than it was in 2020. In 2020, it was a very simple economy to explain to viewers and for viewers to understand as well. A U.S. economy with one major crisis, COVID. We're on lockdown. We didn't have jobs. We were having difficulty paying bills because of COVID. The cause and the effect, very, very simple. Where are we tonight? We have not one, but 3 major crises happening at the same time. We have supply chain disruption crisis. We have a new subvariant of Omicron in China causing supply chain disruption and also inflationary pressures and also other issues like that. Then number 3, of course, we have Vladimir Putin, his cause of recessionary pressures as well. Then we have everything else that's at issue, the high inflation. It's its own crisis among many other. 4 crises, and we're not just starting. When we have the Federal Reserve coming in saying we're raising interest rates to battle inflation, I think that is a situation unto itself. Because guess what? It ain't going to work. When you have 4 crises and you're trying to figure out which crisis is causing which event, it's complicated. It's confusing. And what does that mean for you as a viewer? What it means for you as a viewer is that when you look at Build Back Better Act, when you look at 2022 versus 2020, I need you to understand that 2022 is all about your bills. At the moment, the total mindset among congressional leaders, whether correct or wrong, is about your bills. You got a lot of bills, and those bills are being caused by a lot of crises, whether we're talking about Putin or China or supply chain disruption or inflation or recessionary pressures or any of the subparticles like oil or commodities, any of those subparticles. You have a lot of bills and bills that you can't afford. And the concept of forced stimulus is, let me help you with those bills. When you looked at 2020 and first stimulus and second stimulus, it wasn't about paying you a bill or taking care of your bill or forgiving your bill. It was about just giving you a check. It was about giving you a check and having you to deal with it. Congress is a little bit more proactive this time around because there's a lot of major crises at hand. And those economic crises need to be dealt with. And so what I want you to understand is that they're approaching Build Back Better Act to pay your bills. Lots of different types of bills. And that's why when we go over those 3 clusters of checks, it is so important. When we go over those 3 clusters of checks, it's important to understand that we got a cluster to deal with these issues. We have a cluster to deal with those issues. We have add-ons to deal with other issues across the board, whether it's the home health care whether it's buying a home, whether it's other add-ons. They have a lot of items they need to have help with paying your bills. And what I want you to understand is that that is their mindset tonight. In an environment in which the economic data is generally missing, but also has good economic data, like good unemployment, the lowest level since the 1960s, their focus is solving your difficulty paying bills. That is their approach. And their crisis and causation approach may be a little bit off. They may not understand why you can't pay the bill, but they know you can't pay the bill. Whether it's cost of living, whether it's oil, whether it's wheat, they know you're having problems paying bills. So they want to give you money so you can afford to pay the bills. And that's how they're lining up Build Back Better Act. That's not to say that's how they're going to line up 6 stimulus. A lot of these stimulus packages may look similar, and that's why they're overlapping, because subtly, it's very rare that you have foreign banks saying, you got to give your citizens money or they're in big trouble. I got to tell you, as I look at the landscape tonight, we're just less than 30 days away. And the price of gasoline has not come down where I said it was on day one of the Vladimir Putin invasion of Ukraine. I told you if gasoline remains at $4 a gallon, we're going to recession. Well, we haven't improved. I told you if the wheat does not come down price of the loaf of bread, we're going to recession. It hasn't improved. What has come actually more aggressively is interest rates. And now Jay Powell is raising interest rates with a hard landing to bring down inflation. That may cause things to go off track. It may cause people to suddenly not afford things in a way they did not see, even though inflation was not sustainable unto itself. Over the next week, we're going to have a lot of other financial data coming out. On April 13th, we'll have the PPI number I'll feature on this recording. Well, the latest comments from those congressional leaders as they really try to tee up that Build Back Better Act 4 vote. We'll have the White House trying to deal with the situation as the subvariant of Omicron spreads over Asia. Could it next be in the United States? And what will cause in our supply chain disruption domestically? We get more guidance from the Federal Reserve on what they're doing with that FOMC meeting. It's clearly believed at this point that the April meeting will be a half basis point. The May will be a half basis point. But how many months thereafter? Are we seeing 20 months of interest rate spikes or just 20 days? Are we seeing half basis point for one meeting, 2 meetings, or a 1 year? The Federal Reserve is very fixated reducing inflation. But in reducing those inflation, guess what? Most analysts and I believe that the Federal Reserve will send us a recession because you can't do it that way. The Federal Reserve cannot fix supply chain disruption. And with tonight's developing details, we don't just have supply chain disruption because of Putin. We don't just have supply chain disruption because of our own economy. We don't just have supply chain disruption because of China. We have supply chain disruption because of a lot of major issues. And if you can't solve supply chain disruption, things get very confusing and you go into recession. Thank you for joining me on a 1-hour special broadcast of America's most watched show for financial news in prime time, where people learn and get those big checks. The mindset is always things that one needs to keep intact. And the thing that you need to keep intact tonight is 3 checks are available. Get those checks, become a member. Go under the video right tonight and become a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, or Calcino VIP. Get that incredible newsletter that's delivered Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to get those big checks. You don't want to wait because those checks are paying out right now. It's not often that we have big checks like this, and you don't know how long we'll be paying. Become that member tonight, and then tune in throughout the night for evening's countdown at 6 o'clock. Evenings stream stimulus at 7 o'clock, evenings extra at 8, and evenings sunset at 9 o'clock. Stay informed, stay focused. Join me nightly for America's most watched show for prime time in financial news. It's evenings LALATE, nightly at 5 o'clock.